Great.
Oh, it's such a great.
Hi, Tim.
Okay.
What's going on?
It is 6:02. I'd like to call to order the special board meeting of the Downtown Development Authority on Tuesday, October 22nd at 6 o'clock. Can we do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everybody for attending this special meeting. I know it's out of the norm, and I'm happy that we were all able to make it. Can we get a roll call, Jerry?
Stauffer,
Here.
Raska,
Here.
Clark, excuse me, Herrick,
Here.
Wingelmeyer,
Here.
Delaney, here. Elliott, here. Coxey.
Here.
Awesome. You have before you the agenda for this evening. I would like to, being the fact that we have two of our candidates here this evening, I would like to entertain a motion to amend the agenda to include the actual interviews of those two individuals.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right,
All those in favor? Oh, excuse me,
No, I was just say, who made the motion?
Raska. Any comment at all? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. The agenda will be modified to include the interview process. I will now open it up to public comment for items on the agenda. Go ahead, Hillary.
Hillary Allgaier, 121 Alley Street. As far as the hiring process for the new DDA director, I don't know if there's specific criteria that they have to meet, but I would like to see that person already have grant writing experience so that it doesn't incur more cost to the village later on by choosing somebody that doesn't. And that is all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Good evening. I like my new style here. Kind of like what Hillary is doing, for the hiring or the interview process,
You have to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. My name's Daniel, Wendell, 108 Airport Drive.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Good job. But anyways, I think whoever you guys decide to pass along to council, whatever that, should be somebody who has helped out with the DDA stuff that they do. I mean, I'm not applying for the position, of course, because I don't want it, but I love being a volunteer with it. And we have a pretty good setup going, as you would see from Witches Night we had a couple weeks ago. We kind of all pulled together without having our director there, and things kind of went kind of smooth. It would have been better if we would have had our director, because then we would have had our tent and everything else. But I think it's somebody who should be that also has done stuff with the DDA, volunteering, putting their time out there, putting their time involved with the DDA, just not somebody who's a business owner or somebody who says, I want to do it. Somebody who knows the amount, because I know Nick put mountains and mountains of time in outside of being on the clock for the DDA. I mean, I set up cones last year with him for the parade at 10:30 at night across the street from my house, setting up the numbers and measuring everything out. And I know that poor guy's got a life, and I've seen him clean up stuff at 11:30 at night downtown, and I stopped and helped him do that. So that's one thing you might want to consider, is how their availability is, or how they feel about, volunteering their time on top of what they have to do for a salary, whatever the position is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? No? Okay. We will go on to the hiring process, as I mentioned, and has been amended in the agenda. We do have two individuals here today that we felt met some of the criteria of the job description. And so we would like to move forward with the interview process of those individuals. If Jerry, you would like to call in the first candidate, we are going to interview first Mr. Christopher Frazier.
Can you explain the process that we're going to go through?
So I have, and you all received a list of the questions that we will ask them. We will not ask any follow-up questions. We want to be fair to both candidates and ask the same set of questions, and allow them plenty of time to answer them. And then after that time, if we feel that there's somebody that we want to move forward with, we can certainly discuss that, potentially entertain a motion to move forward in the process, which would be to start negotiating a salary contract, that type of thing. And then it also has to go to council as well.
All right.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Frazier. We really appreciate it. Get comfortable. I have a set of questions that I'm going to ask you, and please take your time in answering them and formulating your thoughts and so forth. There will not be any follow-up questions to these, so these will be the questions. And if you need anything explained, further, just let us know. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So just take a few minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself, both professionally and personally, including in your discussion your educational background and any achievements that you have accomplished.
Absolutely. So over the last 4 years, I've worked in community development and local government management. I started out as a management assistant for the city of Vassar up in Tuscola County, where I assisted the city manager on multiple different projects across the city, from aspects including the redevelopment ready community certification from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, to even assisting our public works department in overseeing our lead and copper rule that was implemented by the state in 2021, as well as assisting our fire department and any other projects that may need to be done in the community. Then after that, I spent some time down in North Carolina as the assistant to the city manager in Boiling Spring Lakes, just south of Wilmington. And I assisted the city manager in day-to-day operations, including project management, grant writing and management, and also assisting other department heads where it was needed. I then found my way back up to Michigan and took an opportunity as a city manager for the city of Bessemer, a small community of about 2,000 people in the western UP, where I was responsible for wearing multiple hats, including not only being the city's chief administrative officer, but also the chief financial officer, planning and zoning administrator, economic development director, as well as chief information officer, chief code enforcement officer, and that would be it. So some other highlights of my success include I received a early career service certificate from the International City County Management Association. Some of my work has been recognized by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and essentially I've had work that has been recognized not only through the state of Michigan, but also parts of the country.
Okay. You touched a little bit on it, but what is your grant writing experience and your grant administration experience?
So my experience in grant writing is that I have written grants or even assisted writing in grants ranging anywhere from a couple $1,000s to as big as $14.9 million. I've also have administered grants that included $250,000 for a stream bed restoration project. That was a total of $520,000 when I was working down in Boiling Spring Lakes. When I was up in Bessemer, I was overseeing about $15 million in grant-funded project and grant funding towards public works projects, including restoring service lines that were either had lead in them or had galvanized steel. So I have managed millions of dollars in grant funding, and I've also have managed to pursue grant funding that was anywhere between, again, anywhere between a couple $1,000s to a couple $1 million.
Thank you. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses?
So I would say one of my strengths is being able to actively listen and listen to what other people are requesting and what is being asked and what needs to be done in order to come up with a solution that can potentially be the solution that we need. Another strength that I have is my ability to think outside the box. I have had come up with some innovative strategies to help either help move the mission of the organization or perhaps just move the organization in a direction that it may want to move towards to potentially serve the community better. For example, I have come up with innovative strategies such as putting up solar panels on public buildings because of the fact that we had run into issues of finding a generator for a building. So I came up with that idea because of the area we were located in. And I've also have come up with other small solutions such as implementing new technology because we were spending too much money, say, on paper products or on other aspects where new technology could save us money. One weakness that I do have is, I would call it over-communication. I like to make sure that when I am presenting either on a presentation or I'm presenting information to the public or to a group, I like to make sure that they're well informed and they understand the situation that we have and understand the details of what is going on. However, I have found at times that it also can lead to myself presenting too much information that either A, isn't needed, or B, is something that perhaps no one wanted to really learn about until I presented it to them. So what I like to do is, before I present information to a group or to the public, I like to make sure that the information is concise while accurate. And there has been times where I've also just implemented staff reports to where it just gives you a summary of what the information of what is on the agenda item, and then simply just gives you a financial impact of how much it's going to cost, and then what I recommend or what staff recommends before in this case what the DDA board would make a motion to approve that recommendation or not.
Okay, thank you. What is some of the most useful criticism that you've ever received and why?
So one of the most useful criticism that I've ever received was, well, going back to my weakness, was the fact that I had talked too much. Now, with that criticism came in mind the fact that, I do like to establish relationships, and I don't mind having conversations with people just to, make sure that we understand each other and making sure that I establish a relationship with people because they understand that I'm going to be working with them a lot, and I want to make sure that we're on good terms and not, potentially trying to, be combative towards each other or potentially not wanting to work with each other in general. However, I have found that when I have meetings or when I have discussions with people, those discussions tend to be a lot longer than what they should have been. So the criticism that I was given that I talk too much wasn't because of the fact that, it's not meaningful conversations or it's not, an attack on who I am or who I want to be. It was just letting me know that, hey, you might want to dial back on the conversations or else projects are going to get stalled and you're not probably going to get a lot done.
Thank you. Describe a typical workday of your most recent job.
So my typical workday was when I first got into my office first thing in the morning, I would check my emails. I would take a look at emails and filter them out between emails that were just subscription letters that I really didn't care to read about to potentially important emails that needed to be responded to immediately. And depending on the email, it was either an email that I'd be responding to right away or an email that I would potentially give it some time. Perhaps somebody emailed me about some information that they needed, and I needed to take a little bit of time to get them the information that they needed. So then I would put it on a to-do list that I have sitting right by my computer, letting me know of when I need to respond to that email or when that information that they need needs to be done. But what I also like to do was have in my to-do list a list of things I wanted to get done that day, including stuff that needed to get done perhaps immediately or stuff that had been put on the back burner that needed to get done right then and there. So I would look at that to-do list and figure out what stuff I needed to get done and what stuff I could do later on in the day. So I like to prioritize my work around also the meetings I had scheduled that day, because I would also make sure that when I had my meetings, I was well prepared for what the conversation was going to be at hand. So my day would consist of the stuff that I had to do, my meetings, and then just kind of checking my progress of where our projects were, just making sure that we were up to date, so that way, I wasn't falling behind, or, there wasn't something that came up at last minute that wasn't being taken care of.
Okay. In your current or your most recent position, what was your greatest accomplishment?
Well, I would say my greatest accomplishment, I have a few different projects in mind because of the significance that they had. One achievement that I had was back when I was working down in North Carolina was the fact that I had obtained, or I assisted in obtaining, a $14.9 million grant towards dam restoration. That was a total of a $54 million project at that time. Another achievement that I had was something a little bit more sentimental to me, and not really any financial impact, but it was because it was a member of the community that had done a great bit of public service, had done a great amount of service to the community, and I felt that he needed recognition for it. So I put in his application for the governor's volunteer service award for the state of North Carolina. And the reason why I say it's sentimental is because he was related to one of our staff members, and unfortunately, he ended up receiving the award, but he ended up passing away 3 months later. But another achievement that I felt extremely proud of was the fact that I had nearly completed the redevelopment ready community certification for the city of Vassar before I ended up leaving to take another job. So, because when I first started that project, it was nowhere near completion. I mean, there was only maybe 3 projects towards the certification that had been completed, and by the time I had left, there was only about 3 projects that needed to be done. So there was quite a bit of work that was needed to get done, and I took great pride in that. And I would say another project that I had in mind, or another achievement that I had in mind, was realistically the ability to, actually it's kind of funny, is I was able to get somebody in our community to not only pay their zoning violation, but also come in and get their permit for their chickens without having to take them to court. And if you want to, I could elaborate on that, or that could be a story for another time.
What experience do you have in fundraising?
So I used to do fundraising when I was in college. When I was in grad school specifically, I was the fundraising chair for the running club at CMU. And my responsibility was to make sure we found different ways to get funding for our club. And one of the big fundraisers that we used to do was our concession stands at football games during the fall time. So like right now, for example, would be where the most amount of money we would get from. And we would usually make between about maybe a few $100 to about $2,000 every weekend that we had. And that was usually cutting a split from the university on getting that funding. Again, fundraising, in my opinion, ties back into grant writing, but also I've been a part of fundraising aspects such as having a buy a brick program where when I was in Bessemer, we had a project that we were trying to receive funding for, where we were trying to receive funding for the Iron Belt Trail there in Gogebic County, and our community had created this buying a brick program where if you bought a brick, your brick could be in a designated area where they were building, I think it was a silo, or it was essentially a station where you could park your bikes or even take a rest. And we sold those at about $100 a piece, and I think we raised a total of $20,000 on that program.
Okay. Can you tell the board what economic vitality means to you?
So to me, economic vitality means the status of where you are economically and where you want to move forward. It's essentially, how do I want to put this? It's essentially assessing where you are economically, assessing where you are compared to some of your other competition, and then determining where you can make improvements to make yourself better.
Okay. Take a few minutes and explain to the board the importance of fostering a positive relationship with the business community.
So what I think about fostering a positive relationship with business owners in the community is first taking the time to listen to, their stories, listen to why they came to the community, more specifically, why they decided to create their business or open their business in Holly and the Holly downtown area, and then listening to their concerns that they have, listening to their issues that they may have, and then formulating a plan to relieve or perhaps resolve some of those issues, and then working with the DDA board to essentially formulate that plan, and then executing the plan to where these business owners can continue to foster their business without the fear of potentially having their business having to shut down, or potentially having their business potentially having to say accumulate more costs as a result of too many regulations or too many zoning variations, or even too much government oversight. So to me, fostering good relationships with business owners in the downtown area is just making sure that everybody is having their voice being heard, and then making sure we're actively seeking new ways to resolve some of these issues that come about.
Okay. Please explain your strategy for volunteer recruitment and how you would use them.
So what I would do is I would immediately start reaching out to local community groups. I would start reaching out to the various churches in the area, perhaps the locals, reach out to Holly High School and see if there's any teenagers or any students at Holly High School that would be willing to participate or like to volunteer. Perhaps, work a program with Holly High School to potentially have students come in and do volunteer work for the DDA. I know, for example, based on my previous experience in high school, is that I know there are students who are in the National Honor Society who need volunteer hours to complete their checklist, so to speak, of what they need to do. So that could be a good idea, reaching out to those students and letting them know that we have volunteer opportunities for them, to where they don't have to go too far to be able to receive those hours that they need, just like, reaching out to, say, like Oakland Community College and even Oakland University, reaching out to those students and letting them know that we have volunteer opportunities for them to perhaps serve their community, but also have something that they could just put on their resume to help them, get a job somewhere, either outside the community, in the community, or just perhaps somewhere where they never thought that they could get an opportunity. Because in my experience, I have seen volunteer opportunities in public service where they can help you receive a position such as, perhaps such as this one, or even in other positions in public service that they never even considered. So, but other than that, even just reaching out to members of the community, just letting them know that, there could be opportunities to just fuel their resume or even just give them something to do. I know from experience that I've worked with retirees who would like to just have nothing more than just give them, just to have something to do. And, whether that's, perhaps stringing up lights or, painting, or even just painting some lines in a parking lot. I mean, really just anything to let them, to have them be active and be a part of that community. So, I mean, so those are just a few ideas that I have that could get more people to come out and volunteer.
Okay. So describe a time when you felt that you were acting in the best interest of your town or village, but yet you were criticized for the action. How did you handle it, and what were the results?
So that is a good question. So when I was working in Boiling Spring Lakes, we had a festival that was coming up, and it was going to be a big festival. We were for a community of about 6,000 people. We were anticipating about 10,000 people, not between the community and from the entire area, and one of the conversations that we had talked about was security. Our police department at that time only had about 10, 15 officers, but they had about maybe 5 officers on duty at a time. So initially my thought was 10, 15 officers for 10,000 people didn't seem like a lot of security. So I had discussed the idea of getting volunteers and have them be certified in crowd management, because I had heard of instances and even had read of instances of people who had actually died in an emergency situation where they were trying to get out of an area, or they had too many people in a crowded space where EMS and paramedics needed to reach somebody in case they had a medical emergency. And what I had ultimately spoken to, perhaps in a meeting with staff, was my concern that if we didn't have enough people volunteering to potentially handle a medical emergency, or even just a situation where somebody gets out of hand and everybody's trying to crowd towards an exit that they can't reach. So I had just suggested we just find volunteers and have them be certified, take a simple course online to be certified in crowd management, just in case. And I received criticism mostly from my boss at the time, the city manager, because he believed that the crowd management volunteers were not needed. In fact, he said that they also had other police officers from other nearby jurisdictions nearby that were only about 10 minutes away, but they were going to be on call at that time. So in case of a situation broke out, such as a medical emergency, or perhaps something turned dangerous, they were going to be able to come on site. So my immediate concern at that time was just, having people right then and there in case if the situation went awry.
Okay, So why should we hire you as the next Holly DDA director?
So the reason why you should hire me is because of my capabilities of working in community development. I have success being, wherever I have went, implementing new community development projects. I also have the ability to work with others. I have actually built a rapport and have built strong relationships with other public service members, particularly in local government in Oakland County. So anywhere that you can think of potentially in Oakland County, I've either met one of those individuals in person, or I've spoken with one of those individuals perhaps on the phone. And another reason why I think you should hire me is because I like being in the area. I like to think I grew up in this area just because of the fact that I spent so much time in this area as a child. I had family who grew up in this area, so I have kind of a good knowledge of what it's like to be here and what it's like to, live and, do business in the area, so.
Okay, do you have any questions about the position that you're being interviewed for?
Yes, so I would like to ask, what are your next steps in the interview process? Are you guys going to be making a decision tonight, or are you going to make it at another meeting?
I'm not sure about that. I think that we'll take it under advisement and discuss it, and we will let you know what our next steps are, when we know what our next steps are. But after tonight, we'll determine whether or not we should still be looking, or if we want to move forward with one of the candidates that we are interviewing.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, let me see if there was anything else that I had on my mind. So my other question that I had for you is simply, why did each and every one of you decide that you wanted to be part of the DDA?
That's a good question.
Duress.
I think, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we all have passion for Holly. And as community members or business owners, we want to see Holly succeed. We want to have a vibrant community. And we all feel that we bring talents to this board that will help us move forward. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay. We certainly appreciate you traveling down here for this interview. And if you'd like to step back out in the lobby, we would appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's only one of you, Jerome. Is that what you said?
For that, I'm sure you're all grateful.
Yes.
I wasn't going to say that.
But you'll second it.
Hello.
Hello.
Next up, we have Kelly Westbrook. Kelly, we're going to ask you a series of questions. Take as much time as you need to answer them. There will not be any follow-up questions, but you can just, if you need clarification, please ask. But I'm I'm just going to dive right in, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so take a few minutes to tell us about yourself, both professionally and personally, including your educational background and achievements that you've accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kelly Westbrook, I'm a Christian wife and mom of two. My little ones were getting out of the car with me tonight, meeting grandma in the lot, actually, 6 and 8. And I was born and raised in Oxford and left for a little bit of time for my career with NASCAR down south. And then when we started to have children, we wanted to be back closer to family and to my mom, so we came back home. And it was actually during COVID time where I came on board with my mom. She's an owner of a small business in downtown Oxford. And just getting her through COVID and dealing with the DDA in Oxford just made me realize some of the things that these business owners were facing being small business owners. And it just really gave me a heart for small business and all the opportunity that lies within that. So when the DDA position came open in Oxford, I went after it there and spent my last 4 years there up until yesterday, actually, was my last day there. So my education background, I went to Oxford High School and then Oakland University. I actually went to school to be a news anchor and spent time in the communications department. I then started with Fox 66, that's up here in Flint, if y'all are familiar. And I started in sales there and just grew a love for sales. And from there, I was hired by the Detroit Pistons and then NASCAR from there. So I spent most of my career in sports and sales and marketing, and then the DDA position. My achievements, though I've had many throughout my career, they really fall under my last 4 years at Oxford. Some of the things there that we were able to do, just first and foremost, take something that was completely broken from the processes down to just the business community. They had just come out of COVID, then we had the M24 construction, and I started about 10 months then before the Oxford school shooting. So we just had a lot of things to do to just get that energy back in the downtown and bring a community together. And from there, we were able to implement so many different projects, from community spaces to a gift card program that's now brought in over $60,000 to our downtown, to over $400,000 in grants, and the list goes on. So proud of what we've done the past 4 years there, and now just looking for a new opportunity.
Awesome. So what is your grant writing and grant administration experience?
Sure. So grant writing was new to me 4 years ago when I came into Oxford, and I was so blessed because Ashley Ross, who was a board member on my board, had a lot of experience in grant writing. So she actually came alongside me and helped me through the process for those first couple. And those were some big ones that we were able to acquire. $250,000 from Consumers Energy, the $50,000 hometown grant from T-Mobile. And most recently, I just sat on the county's side committee that helps secure ARPA funding for all of our main streets in Oakland County. And so we just received another $130,000 and then budgeted to match it at $200,000. So I have learned a lot the past 4 years about grant writing and actually enjoy it now that I know how to do it. But I couldn't have done it without an awesome team behind me, kind of leading me on the way.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your strengths and weaknesses.
Sure. So my strength is they call me the cheerleader in Oxford because I am really great at bringing groups of people together and getting their buy-in and securing volunteers and just making people want to put forth that effort. And then also getting things done. You know, a lot of time I think in government organizations, we see a lot of red tape. And coming from sales and my type A personality, I said, red tape? What red tape? So I'm really great at getting things done quickly and efficiently. Some of my weaknesses would be definitely getting attached and wearing my heart on my sleeve and just almost just putting too much in. So I was working 60 plus hours a week in Oxford up until yesterday when I was done. And for me, I sometimes just get so invested that it really becomes my life. And I need to remember that balance is key. But honestly, that I think is another reason why I do get things done is because I am so invested.
Okay, what is some of the most useful criticism that you've ever received and why?
Yeah, so it actually goes back to that being solely invested. So I had a board member after the high school shooting, just because we had, Facebook can be a wonderful and a cruel thing. That really just were very hurtful with some of their posts with the downtown, and I was taking them to heart with being the DDA director. And he just sat alongside me and said, you know what, even though I know that you feel like you're a part of this, you have to remember that you are here to do a job and you are doing the right thing. So you need to continue to go forward and not take each individual thing and focus on it. And that for me was really big. And that's when I started to feel like I could actually separate myself.
Okay. Describe a typical workday from the DDA job.
Yeah, sure. So it always starts with dropping off my kids at school. So I'm a big believer in being mom first. And then I get right into the office, and usually my days are pretty structured and planned out. Now I'm famous for having business owners pop in all day. But really I like to just make sure that I have my checklist and my to-do list. So whether that is committee meetings and follow-up, or if that's prepping for the board meeting, working on a current project or placemaking project, or working on a grant, it's scheduled out in my calendar. So I'm never walking into the office not knowing what's on that day's agenda. I'm always making sure that I know what's coming up for that whole week, but then having the flexibility that when those business owners do come in, that we're taking the time for them as well. I think that connection and that personal relationship with the business owners is so important. So I've never taken a lunch. I'm not going to lie to you, once since I was at the DDA, because I always work right through. And then around 3:45, I would leave to pick up my kids. And then after getting them situated at night, I'm going back and I'm following up with all my emails and my daily tasks that I didn't get done to make sure that those aren't on the agenda for tomorrow.
Okay. So in your most recent position, what do you think your greatest accomplishment was?
So there was a public parking lot that was right downtown, and it had garbage in it, and it was a gravel lot, and it was an eyesore because it was literally in our heart of downtown Oxford. And what happened is the person who bought it, who's not from Oxford, he bought it in a really great economy and in a great time and paid a lot for it. And then when he went to build, he realized that there wasn't enough parking to actually build what he wanted to build to get the return on investment. So he let it sit empty, and it was just it was sad to see in our downtown, but I understand why he had to leave it. So about 10 months into my job, I reached out to him and I said, hey, this is a long shot, but here's a dream. I dream of this being a community space, someplace that not only families can gather, but teens as well, that we can have a farmer's market that we didn't have at the time. We can have games out for kids during the week. We could have murals for photos and just really come together on a community space, but also something that could ever be changing. And the minute it sells, it reverts back to you. Like, we're not asking you to take it off the market. And he looked at me and he said, okay. And I said, okay, now I got to figure this out. So I actually went out to the community and I got every single thing donated, from the pavement to all of the work there, to the murals, to all of the games. And now it's Washington Square. It's the heart of downtown. We have lighting, we have murals, we have our farmers market there, our holiday market. Right now it hosts a cute pickup truck for family photos. You could see the homecoming kids, walking in there playing cornhole this weekend. But for me, taking a dilapidated space and making something so beautiful and not paying a dime from the DDA budget, that to me was just such a win-win for our community.
Okay, well, what experience do you have in fundraising?
Yes, so fundraising, I have a heart for fundraising, and not just from my DDA days, but actually going back to my Miss Michigan days. I worked with many different organizations, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation that I'm very passionate about. I worked with Children's Miracle Network, Love Inc., have sat on their board. So fundraising has always been something that I'm passionate about. But in my DDA role, it took on new life because I was looking at our events budget and I wanted to add events to our downtown. We only had 5 or 6 when I came in, and I really felt like what better way to get community to want to be here than having them feel a part of events. It goes into economic vitality, everything, right, when you look at a downtown. Our events budget was slim, so I decided to say, okay, if I can fundraise for every single one of these events and get them covered, can we do them? So that was the deal with the board. So in the past 3 years, I've never had to take out of our events budget. I've gotten everything completely sponsored and fundraised, I guess you could say, for our events in the downtown, including most recently our trolley program for $20,000.
Okay. So explain to the board what economic vitality means to you.
So this has become, over the years, my favorite committee, which asked me 4 years ago, and that would have not been the case. Economic vitality for us wasn't a working committee. It wasn't structured well. So what we did is we brought our grants under that committee and really targeted those grants in the committee, because what we realized is the different grants, whether they be county, state, federal, really they're there to create economic vitality, whether it's public spaces or, dilapidated buildings or blight. Those falling under that committee, I just find that we have a vision there. And then the other part of it is we have gotten really good about pulling reports from the county to make sure that we are going after the businesses that we want in our downtown. Now, obviously, you can't be too picky when somebody says we want to be in your downtown. There are stipulations, but for the most part, you're usually arms open wide. But we have started to go after what we want and what we think fit in our downtown. And we went from over 10% vacancy rate down to 2% in less than 4 years.
Okay. Take a few minutes and explain to the board the importance of fostering a positive relationship with the business owners.
Yeah, so I feel like that is key, right? Because the business owners, they're the heart, and if they're doing well and you're all working together, it starts to just run, right? I look at it, I always say, I left my assistant director this past week, but I said, we're running like a machine, just keep it going. And it's because we created this community. I created what was called a huddle once a month where we download the business community for less than 30 minutes. I say less than 30 minutes because although I love to chat as much as the next person, we're all very busy. And small business owners, I've watched it firsthand with my mom, you just don't have a lot of time. So for 30 minutes, I give all the information that you need to hear for that month, whether it be projects that are coming up, promotions, how you can be more ingrained within the DDA and the community, and we just really download. And that was really the time, creating that 3 years ago really made us come together as a community, because then what I found is the open lines of communication were there. And that was key to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're all going in the same direction. And it started also to create kind of this team atmosphere, and that was the whole reason for calling it the huddle, to make sure that we look at each other as a team and that we're a community and we're all in this together.
Okay. Explain your strategy for volunteer recruitment and how you would use them.
Well, besides for begging, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so volunteers, it's funny how when you put on an event and if you look like you're having a good time and you have volunteers there that are positive and they're having a good time, the people just start to come to you. And that's what happened with us. That first year, it was more difficult to get volunteers in the community. But then when they start to come see things changing and they come to events and they start to see our team and that fun and that just positive attitude, now we don't even have to go out and seek them, because they literally is an influx in our inbox at all times, to the point where I had to ask for a volunteer to come in and help with the influx of volunteers that we were getting. So I feel like it's more of a see by somebody doing than just going out and begging for a volunteer. Now, I think that the first conversation with those volunteers are, what are you passionate about? You know, because I don't want somebody to come in and just have to volunteer for something. I want to put them where they belong, no matter if that's a committee or that's a one-off event or whatever that looks like, because I want them to stay. And then for us, it's always that follow-up and that thank you after, and letting them know that they're valued and that we appreciate them and their time and their commitment to the downtown.
Okay. Describe a time when you felt like you were acting in the best interests of the village, but were criticized for that, and how did you handle it, and what were the results?
Sure. So for us, it actually goes back to 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, when the shooting happened, and we had our largest event 4 days later. And so that was Soup and Sweet Stroll for us, which is our largest event, and now a ticket event we're profiting off of. We made the decision as a DDA director and as a board to cancel that event and do a vigil that night. And we just thought that that was the best thing for the community. And unfortunately, it got so large that just there was some chaos. And nothing to our fault, but there were just high emotions. And it was a very, people were very, very harsh. And it was very criticizing, and it was really hard, and it was hurtful, and it was really tough on me and my family. But at that time, I thought I was doing the best thing for the community, the best thing for the village. And although it didn't turn out the way that I hoped, I still think that that was the best thing to do.
Okay. Tell us why we should hire you as the next DDA director.
Sure. Well, I mean, I feel like my actions the past 4 years speak louder than words. I think that we really took a broken community, a community that wasn't thriving, and I feel like we turned it around. And I think when you have somebody walk in the door as a DDA director, if they're passionate about small businesses and community, and about not just about doing the paperwork and the administrative, but really about creating that team and just really taking a downtown to the next level, I think that that's really the candidate that you should be looking for. And that's me. I'm a very passionate individual. I love small business. My heart is for small business. And I absolutely love being able to come in and make a difference. And that's the best reason I can give you.
Okay. Do you have any questions about the position that you're being interviewed for? I can't imagine you do, but.
I don't. Well, I mean, Linda and Jerome did a great job the other day at lunch, and we were able to talk through it. So I feel like I have a great, I just feel like I know about the position. I actually knew Nick. We worked a lot with Main Street, Oakland County together, so very familiar with Holly growing up in Oxford, and you have a great town here.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. We will let you know what the next steps are.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you
Okay.
all.
Thanks, Kelly. Thank you.
Do we have any comments about either of the candidates that we've interviewed tonight?
Well, I live very close to Oxford. It's probably 15 minutes from my house. And I have seen actually firsthand Kelly's takeover of the DDA. And she has been through a lot of hard times. That Oxford shooting, imagine if it happened at Holly High School. It was a terrible time in that community. And of course, coming out of COVID, they have brought, that downtown has completely been rejuvenated. Without even meeting Kelly, I have met her one other time with
Yes.
Kari, and we met with her and Nick and Molly from the Lake Orion DDA, and they were meeting us and collaborating and networking with some different things we could do to Holly within our social district. And I was so impressed with what they were doing, the trolley, all the things, the space, the green space they came, community center. I mean, she has done so much for that community, and not alone. She is really sincere when she said she built that sense of community with the business leaders there. So I actually could not say enough about her and the teamwork and that bond she's brought with volunteers and the business owners coming together. So I've seen it firsthand. That's why I can speak in regards to her personally, and a great, very positive person.
I think what you see is what you got with her as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's true. Shines.
I was a little confused with the gentleman, Mr. Frazier.
Yes.
With me. I didn't sense that he actually ever really had DDA experience.
Correct. I don't think he had DDA experience. He had more governmental, I think in one of his jobs, he wore a lot of hats.
City manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, maybe
Well,
he
it's a lot
should
of
be
hats.
applying for our village manager position. I don't know.
I just didn't pick up on the whole DDA knowledge per se from him. Although he probably possesses a lot of other great qualities. I don't think there's really any comparison between the two when it comes to DDA experience. And to my knowledge, with all the resumes we received, Kelly is really the only DDA
Yes.
experienced individual that we have.
I was going to ask that, if we
That is
did
true.
have anybody that had applied with other DDA experience.
No, they would have been here tonight if we did.
And I personally have sat on other interviewing committees with other DDA areas, and I'm the first to say that they don't have to have DDA experience because you can learn it. And we have a very supportive Oakland County that would help support someone that had the wherewithal to take that role and then work into it. But I did not get that vibe from Mr. Frazier. I mean, Kelly's already doing it, so.
Be nice to have somebody step right in and just roll.
Yeah, I'd really echo that. The difference in experience seems quite apparent.
Yes.
In particular with DDA, but Mr. Frazier, even just looking at his resume, there's some gaps and really some fairly short-term roles where, again, it appears she's, had Oakland County DDA experience, so actually knows what economic vitality is as a committee.
You know,
So,
right, Dave?
John, what are your
She said it's
thoughts?
her favorite. So.
I'm gonna sleep on it,
Okay,
give it some thought.
okay. You don't have any comments tonight? You want to,
No? I don't-
Okay.
Thank you.
okay. Anybody else?
There's similar communities too, right? Holly
Yes.
and Oxford, so not only do you have the apples to apples comparison of DDA experience for a DDA job, it's also experience that has been gained in a very comparable community.
They're structured the same, right? They're a village?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So what is the next step?
So I need to defer to Mr. Walker and to Ryan on that. It's my understanding we make a recommendation at some point to the council, right? And then council votes on it?
No, so actually, this employee, the DDA director, is an employee of the DDA.
Okay,
What the council votes on is the contract.
okay, so we could decide to move forward in negotiating that contract.
You could.
And then whatever contract we come up with, then it's approved by the council. Right?
Whenever you get to the point to where you are going to make a job offer to somebody, what I would suggest is that you make a conditional job offer contingent upon successful completion of a background
Absolutely.
investigation and contract negotiations.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Do we do that immediately? Can we proceed immediately, or do we have to call do we have to
I think-
digest this and then come to another meeting and?
We can make a decision.
We can make a
You can make
decision
it- okay,
tonight.
okay.
Yes.
But
Okay.
you stated you wanted to
Well,
sleep on it,
I'm
but
not, I'm.
I want to
okay
honor
with it.
you.
I'm
what
okay
you-
with it, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Everybody's gun ho for Kelly, and I think she interviewed really good. And Oxford, like Brian said, is similar to Holly. And I've delivered in Oxford for 30 years, and you can tell the amazing rise of Oxford in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm with you on that.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we would move forward with the contractual discussion with Miss Kelly Westbrook.
Second.
So
okay.
can I just say, I would suggest that you use the word conditional job offer,
Conditional job.
and based upon successful background investigation as well as contract negotiation. So Mr. Raska made.
Yes.
Is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any discussion at all? Okay, so moved. We will move forward with some negotiations and a conditional offer to Kelly.
The only other thing I want to say is that obviously, we don't know that she's even going to accept what
We
we're
don't.
able to offer.
We don't?
So that would be the next step. So do we keep the posting that we have live in case there's another candidate that comes forward?
So
How does that work?
So your posting is not live any longer with the Michigan
it's already
Municipal League.
closed.
It
So
expired.
It expired and closed. We removed it at the same time from the village's website, and so you are off live posting
Okay.
for that. My next question is going to be, typically, the village attorney negotiates these type of contracts and brings back a contract to the DDA. I can have him do that and reach out to Ms. Westbrook and then come back to you with a contract unless there's something different that you want.
I mean, would we not have a conversation with our?
Yes, you will, yes, you will have a conversation with Mr. Gildner as far as parameters.
Okay.
Right.
Before he discusses it
Yes.
with, okay, no, I think that's a good next step.
So we would work in partnership with the legal advice, and
Yes.
that he would develop the contract based on our mutual agreed upon discussions.
Right.
Yes.
He's just going to keep us out of jail.
Are his fees
I like
covered
that.
by the village or out of our budget?
No, they are DDA expense. And
Talk fast.
so he bills in 15-minute increments, so if you can keep it less than 15, you're
you
doing
go.
well. That's what I tell him. I actually start many of our phone conversations out with, this is not a billable call.
Okay.
And to go that way. But he's very reasonable. He's always treated the village very well, and he gives sound advice. And he can write a standard at-will employee contract or a
Right.
contract worker
Right.
contract, really anything that the DDA board wishes.
Okay.
Do we get in touch with Mr. Frazier and tell him thank you for the interview, and we appreciate him coming here and that?
Yes, so I mean,
Okay.
that phone call can either come from the chair, Linda, or I'll be happy to make that call if you'd like. It's up to you.
Okay.
So Linda and I can talk about that.
Okay.
We definitely will notify you.
Yeah.
Sure.
I drove a long way.
Okay, we have no old business, but do we have any public comments? Yes, sir.
Hello, yeah, my name is Daniel Wendell from 108 Airport. Nothing against having the county, or our village attorney write up the contract, but, I mean, all of you guys, if I'm not mistaken, are business owners, correct? So you all know legitimately what you can and cannot say, what you can and cannot ask, and how to make it presented. Why would we waste the money on our village attorney if you guys could do it?
Because we don't want to be sued.
Well, I mean, that's, if I'm just asking, if you hired somebody, if Linda hired somebody at the coffee shop,
But I don't have a contract with them. And once you have a contract that's legally binding, you want to make sure that it's legally approved.
that's, okay, that's why I asked the
That would be
question, you know?
reason.
It's
And-
standard procedure, just, you know. to
SOPs.
do that.
Yeah, I just was,
For any place I've ever worked on with the DDA, you've always had the village or city,
And a contract.
legal, firm review it.
and as a volunteer for the DDA that I do many things with, I really do like Kelly. Nothing against Mr. Frazier, but Kelly seems like she's more prone to be community active, where he wants to try to get college help and this and that for recruiting volunteers and stuff, where she seems like she wants to get the community all involved. That's just my personal take of that, so, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Yes?
Do I do the whole name thing again? Okay. Hillary Allgaier, 121 Alley Street. I really like the lady that you guys are moving forward with. I think that she's going to bring a lot towards our volunteer efforts, and that's really good. And I'm not like trying to like parallel the Oxford shooting to the fire and some of the situations that we've had here, but it speaks to me that she was resilient through a major setback in her community and continued to grow. And I think that that's really impressive. So, thank you.
Thanks, Hillary.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, 7:08. The meeting is concluded. Thank you all for attending. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.